I try to have all my bases covered here.
Okay.
So, all right, here we go. All right, Charles Moskowitz here. Thanks for joining me, everyone. Monday through Friday, 12 noon to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My guest is Danielle Hiles. Danielle is the author of a new children's book that explores effects of George Floyd's death on the Black community. The author and educator inspires today's youth to stand up against racism. In her latest release, We Can Stop Now. Danielle, thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So we all know about the George Floyd death. It was a terrible thing to watch. I mean, the videos were shown quite a bit, very disturbing. And we know about the riots that really took on an international hue, as you mentioned, afterward, and an awareness about police excess and police brutality, particularly as it may target the Black community. Talk a little bit, if you will, about your book, because your book specifically is an animation to reach younger people.
Well, We Can't Stop Now is basically about George Floyd and the death of George Floyd. However, what makes it different is that you see it through the lens of a child. So they're looking at, why is my father dying at the hands of the police? So it looks at it through a child's lens.
Okay, and it certainly is an issue, of course, but I mean, I hope that in the converse, the book does not encourage fear of police in general. I mean, I'm very suspicious of police, or for that matter, any government official. We need to understand how to conduct ourselves when we're
No, it
around them.
purports a story. It purports a story.
Okay, but does that story could that story be seen as particularly by a young person as, in a sense, kind of possibly generally tarring all policemen as trying to kill Black men? I mean, it's because that is what happened with George Floyd.
Well, in this particular story, it looks at one father dying at the hands of the police. So I'm not going to purport that all fathers are dying at the hands of the police, but this is a reality and it is happening. So
Sure.
it's a story being told.
Of course, and should be told. I just hope that it's put in a broader context for younger people to not be, overly fearful of police, or to claim that police have something against Black people per se. I mean, obviously in this case that was true, but in a sense, this could be one of these things that, inadvertently, not deliberately, may actually create more, problems, more division. Because, if you're a young person, especially if you're Black, and you might be living in a neighborhood where there might be more crime and more violence, you want to be able to go to the police for help.
Yes. And children will see that it's twofold, right? That this particular police officer was against a father and killed the father. However, police are also there as support and help. In
Right.
this particular story, it's not showing it twofold, but that's up to the parents as well to educate.
Oh, understood. And I think that, clearly, if you're a young Black man, and I mean, I can't put myself in that position because I pass as white in society, but nevertheless, I understand that, usually the parent will have the conversation with the child about being a little extra careful because they're Black, and that they may end up being specifically targeted. They could be pulled over and whatnot, and how to behave. I mean, there's no question that that's happening, and there's no question that our police need to have better training and, you know, understand, you know, more, to be more careful in those situations. I mean, the concern I have is though that it's the kind of thing that could inadvertently, you know, if not put in the proper context, it could inadvertently actually fan the flames of race separation and race identity in a way that's not favorable.
But it could also tell the story of many that haven't been told. So the fathers that actually have been stopped by the police officers and there's no real claim to it. So it also has to tell that story as well. But it's up to the parents to educate that it's two pronged.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And your book is obviously seen as a tool to do that. Now, talk a little bit about the book itself. Do you get, I mean, do you actually get graphically into the terrible event itself, or how do you handle that?
No, no. It's just a father dies at the hands of the police, and the child wants agency and goes to his teachers for social justice.
And what is it that the child is asking the teachers to do?
To tell the students that this happened to his father at the hands of the police, and to give agency that this doesn't happen again to other fathers.
Okay, fair enough. Um, you know, I mean, another concern that I have generally with this type of education is that it could lead to a hyper race awareness that could actually be destructive. And I'll give you an example of a story that just actually happened yesterday. There is this country singer by the name of Morgan Wallen who apparently he was on the verge of signing a major record deal and he had a pretty big following in his town. And I guess he was coming home from a party with his wife and maybe some other friends. I think they were drunk, and he he used the N word in a comment with the friends, which of course is terrible. But the problem is that a neighbor apparently recorded it on his smartphone and put it out into social media. And because of that, he's now been dropped by his record label. He's been told he cannot appear on radio at all. In other words, you know, possibly his whole life has been upended by this. And it was a private comment. I'm not, whether he actually is racist or not, we don't know. We don't know the context of it. But either way, it wasn't something that he was, you know, doing publicly. And my fear is that this kind of hyper awareness could lead to this sort of almost spying on people and snitching on people, and, you know, kind of like trying to prove that someone might have said something racist.
Well,
excuse me.
It's funny that you say this, because the comment of a nigger, I was just called a nigger within my school context. You know, I'm a vice principal, I'm a doctor of education at my school, and I was called a nigger, and there wasn't any recourse for the student that called me it. And so for this country singer, at least there's recourse for it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to end anybody's career. However, if there's recourse in saying it, then we have to make sure that the lesson has been learned. In my situation, I don't feel that there was agency, that the student knew the importance of nigger, and that it was rooted in enslavement, and that's where it comes from.
Right.
It has to be taken seriously, and I'm actually glad that it was taken seriously with this country singer. I don't want to end anybody's career. However, there needs to be recourse with the word nigger.
Okay, you know, first of all, Danielle, I should mention to my YouTube algorithm people that you happen to be Black, so you're using that word as a Black person. Otherwise, I could lose my show, you know. But if that word,
I'm using it as a Black person because it's happened to me.
I understand, and rightfully, I'm only mentioning that because in these times, doing a YouTube program and doing a program on a live stream, I could be canceled if that word is heard on my show, whether I say it or not. Just the fact that the word has been pronounced on the program, that could be picked up electronically. And if that happens, I could have everything wiped out. And, I mean, I've been working on this program for many years. I have over 700 interviews with a lot of professors and intellectuals on all sides of a political equation. And all of that could be completely purged if that.
We wouldn't want that.
Well, that's why I'm saying I'm a little nervous now that you use that word, because now.
I'm sorry.
No,
I
that's
didn't mean that.
not at all. I just want you to know what's going on right now. I mean, in a way, it's indicative of the bigger picture here, in that anybody that says something like that, or something even more broadly that is not politically correct, they can be destroyed. They can be removed from the public discourse over that. And now that you've said it, I'm worrying. I mean, I might find out that tomorrow morning I'll turn on my YouTube channel and find out that it's been canceled. Everything has been taken down. And I say this only because to illustrate the fact that this is what's happening. I mean, the pendulum has swung so far that it's almost like everybody's under a microscope now. Now, as far as the use of that word, I agree with you. There has to be, younger people especially have to be taught the historical context of that. That was a word of enslavement. It is a word of oppression. There's no question about that.
Yes.
But and I think that generally speaking, in polite society today, people do not use that word, haven't since the 1960s. I mean, I'm really surprised that a young student of yours actually said that to you. That, first of all, putting aside the fact that that's a major discipline problem, to call a teacher any name.
Yes.
To me, I mean, that's something that, at the same time, I mean, now that you've mentioned it, there are increasing numbers of cases where an event like that becomes almost like a crime. I mean, all of a sudden people are called in. I mean, we had a local high school here in my town of Boston where, you had the federal government come in and start investigating, and the state investigated, with 3 investigations going on at the same time, when in fact the issue was really a matter of lack of education and lack of discipline that could have been and should have been handled internally by the school, where the young person would be brought in and essentially scolded in a constructive way, and warned not to do it again, but yet
Yes.
so in a context that they understand, not to be punitive, but this is wrong, and not turn it into this thing where all of a sudden it's in the front page of newspapers.
Yes. There was no recourse, and I'm the vice principal, and there was no recourse.
Really?
There was no recourse from my principal.
So this young student that called you that name, they simply were able to go on and get away with that? That's right.
And
I
was not happy about it, and I brought it higher. So.
Okay. I mean, I hope that the solution to that is somewhat in the median end, in the middle, in that, the young person can be instructed not to do that again, and can be put on notice, but yet it doesn't become like, a federal case, because if we're going to have that, then that actually can be quite, it had the opposite effect. It can turn someone angry and create real resentments.
Yes.
So, but anyways, I'm just, I'm responding only because the politics of our times here in the United States, at least, probably Canada, I know you're Canadian,
Yes.
is such that these charges can be brought up against anybody that doesn't agree with the political establishment. I mean, no matter who you are. And that the political establishment, on the other hand, people who do sometimes embrace these terrible ideas, it's kind of like there's a blind eye turned to that. We could take right now in our own government.
Yes.
So, while I congratulate you for putting together this book, I would simply add the caveat that we hope that genuine lessons about, the wrongness of racism doesn't turn into a political football where it
Okay.
can be used as a weapon, because that's not going to actually reduce racism in this country and in this world.
No, we want it to be a teaching tool. That's the goal. This book is a teaching tool for children, hopefully, to understand racism, to understand how our parents deal with racism and how we deal with racism, and to have agency in their school to go to their teachers if they ever experience it.
Well, those are all noble ideas, and I laud you for that. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. So, Daniel, let my viewers and listeners know where they can get your book, or if there's any websites you'd like to share.
Yes, on Amazon, on iUniverse, and Barnes and Noble, as well as Chapters in Indigo.
All right. So, Dr. Daniel Hiles is the author of this new book, We Can't Stop Now. It's a children's book that talks about the effects of the George Floyd death on the Black community. Danielle, I want to thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you so much.
All right, my pleasure.